Today's video, HOA Karen harasses OP. How do they stop her insanity? With updates. And then Karen accuses OP of harassment for feeding her baby herself, and then a Karen forgets her baby. And for more stories, search for the Austin Stories podcast or check out the link in the description to a crazy story. My 25-year-old female boyfriend, 28 male, and I want to avoid our relationship with our begging neighbor, 50-year-old female, who is our HOA president. Posted by Naughty Messy. I, 25-year-old female, live in a condo, which is bought and not rented, building with my boyfriend, who's 28. We've known our neighbor, Elle, who's in her 50s, pretty much since we moved in nearly 2 years ago. Elle lives alone in a very small condo, which is located at the entrance of our building. It has a window which overlooks the entryway. She's always been a bit nosy with ours and other neighbors' business. When we first met, Elle was nice enough and seemed very concerned about the building administration and my country's version of an HOA, or whatever the equivalent is for condos. At the time, my boyfriend and I made friends with Elle because we needed her and other neighbors' support to vote out the previous HOA board who weren't managing anything and spent our money without justification. We had a few meetings inside our condo with Elle and other neighbors to organize. Eventually, Elle ended up being selected HOA president via random draw. She is a decent building administrator who has help from another neighbor who was selected as treasurer. Since then, however, Elle's nosy and overbearing tendencies have come to light. She would frequently stop by my boyfriend or I at the building entrance or in her condo and keep us tied up in conversation, mostly her monologue about some health or personal problem of hers, and sometimes for hours. It got to the point where my boyfriend and I were tiptoeing when entering the building in the evening so as to not be waylaid. At one point, starting a few months ago, Elle mentioned during a monologue that she was having health problems and financial issues. Elle began offering homemade cakes and sweets for sale to the neighbors and us to try to raise money. My boyfriend, who felt bad for Elle, kept buying regularly, to the point where we had cake slices several times a week for a few weeks on end. Because Elle has our phone numbers from the group chat for the condo, she would call or message my boyfriend or I several times a day on the days that she brought cake to sell in order to get us to buy from her. If we didn't answer right away, she would come and ring our doorbell several times, very loudly, until she either gave up or my boyfriend and I gave in. This has even happened as late as 10 p.m. I work from home and I finally got so fed up with all the calls and messages that I blocked Elle from messaging or calling me. This progressed until she was no longer able to continue selling cakes and all stopped for a while. Then, a couple of months ago, Elle managed to stop my boyfriend by the building entrance again, tell him a sob story and ask for some money which she would pay back. He gave in to the tune of about $20 in our local currency. I knew at the time this was a bad decision, but I bit my tongue while I waited to see how it would play out. Finally, Elle finished paying my boyfriend and I back earlier this week. However, she's since been coming around again at night to ring the doorbell. Just now, she rang 5 times without answer before finally getting the point and leaving. My boyfriend and I are sick and tired of having our peace interrupted. I'm no longer answering the door or any calls, and neither is he. The problem is that Elle is still our building president for the next year, and so we can't ghost her entirely. I want to find a way to politely tell Elle that boyfriend and I are no longer interested in a friendship outside of the passing hello. What advice do you have for handling Elle and her annoying interruptions? We feel bad for her problems, but we can't handle regular chats or supporting her with handouts anymore. Updates from OP in the comments section. One commenter, Battle of Lisa, says, "Your boyfriend really needs to put his foot down as hard as you're trying, having a convo, and really be on the same page if she asks for money or conversation or texts or rings again. I know confrontation is scary, but you need to give this woman clear boundaries. I'd also start recording in detail every single interaction, be it a conversation, a doorbell, or an ignored call, down to the time and date. I'd also suggest writing a polite letter and keep a copy for yourself." And OP replies, "Thanks, I'll try to have a deeper conversation with him about it tomorrow and keeping track of her behavior. I'll talk to him about the letter. Mostly, I just want to create a polite distance with our neighbor, but I understand that she probably thinks we're more friendly than we actually are. I also recognize that she's likely to feel hurt by us backing out of the relationship, which is why this needs to be done gently but firmly. Another commenter asked OP, what rules are in place for being a president? How are the board members voted on, like the length of term? Make it a point to be on a call. Call a friend before entering and make it seem important. When she tries to talk, say, hold on to the call and explain you will talk later as the call is important. And OP replies, the whole president thing is messy. She was chosen by random draw out of a hat because no one volunteered to run. The position lasts 2 years and has been going on for nearly 1. There's no set rules on what powers that she has, but basically, she's our representative when it comes to dealing with things like maintenance issues. She's also in charge of calling meetings of the neighbors to decide on building issues. I make a point never to hang around the entryway and always have an excuse ready. It makes me sad to have to buzz by because I used to be able to stop and chat with the doorman who was friendly. Elle mostly gets under my skin because of her persistence, even when to me it's clear that we're no longer interested in friendly chats or helping her out. It's one thing to knock or call once or twice and then go away, but it's another to ring 5 times and call multiple times in a day over a non-emergency. This commenter suggests that every interruption needs to be, sorry, I don't have time to talk right now. And OP replies, I've been either doing this or ignoring her completely. She doesn't seem to get it and keeps pushing. I forgot to mention that she rang the doorbell about 5 times yesterday evening as well. Oh man, this is like one of those toxic narcissist situations to where you do a thing called gray rocking, or you basically cut them out, low contact except for what you need to. They know there's no relationship, but you just business. Business time is all it is. Not like the Flight of the Conchords reference, if you know what I mean, but knowing that, hey, you're here as you're living in the building, you're the manager, that's all we're going to make this thing, right? Thanks for selling us baking stuff, we're not going to buy anymore. You do your thing, we'll do ours. We will coexist peacefully without a deep, friendly relationship and just be business partners, essentially. Let me know what you think as well, and OP, I hope it gets better for you. You are on the right track. Karen versus Baby. Baby wins. Posted by Jinx Mama. This happened when our oldest, now in her 20s, was a baby. I was laid off from my job 2 days before I gave birth to our first child. Believe me when I tell you, it was financially rough. But the 5 months that I had home with her were pretty awesome. I breastfed both of our children, and this is not a pro or a con breastfeeding post, so don't come for me, and I felt that, as long as I was covered, I could feed my child anywhere I wanted to. I breastfed in malls, restaurants, church, doctors' offices, you name it. And yes, this is not the only Karen story I have about breastfeeding, but it is one of the funniest. So, picture it. It's a beautiful fall afternoon, and my daughter and I have headed to the park to go for a walk. But just as we arrive, my daughter decided that she was a little peckish. I pulled her out of her car seat, climbed into the passenger seat, rolled down the windows, and started feeding my kid. This wasn't the first time I had found myself in the car feeding my kid, so I had a stack of magazines that I would pull out to thumb through while my kid ate. I should mention that my kid was a sipper, so breastfeeding took a minute. Now, I had parked my van so that the front was facing a copse of trees. To see in my window, you had to walk over to the van. I was trying to be respectful and park it in the shade. Okay, mostly the shade part. We had been sitting there for a while before I hear ahem outside my window. I look up and there is this stern woman glaring at us. The woman, let's just call her Karen, proceeds to tell me that I am essaying my child by breastfeeding her. Say what now? I was completely stunned, and I was trying to just come up with a response when my daughter pulls herself off of my breast and blows a raspberry at Karen. Daughter wasn't making a comment, she was just trying to clean out the extra milk in her mouth, but it was funny as heck to see this woman's shocked face when my kid can basically spit at her for insulting her mom. I don't remember exactly what I said after that. It was probably something along the lines of what she said, but I do remember laughing my butt off as Karen walked away. Hey Karen, don't come for my kid. She'll get you every time. Now let's just be honest here. This Karen was living in competition and all OP wanted was her peace of mind. Call it Boston. Well, here's the thing. You are literally feeding your child that is hungry, doing it respectfully, doing it properly, with regard for the other patrons around you, and still yet, the Karen walks around the long way to see what's going on to find a reason to be upset, as they always do with, as I've told you before, their scientific half of a brain. That's all they have. And OP just handles this gracefully. It's so funny too that with this grace, the daughter just goes brrr and just blows the raspberry and just ticks off the Karen, who has to get out of here because she has lost. OP and the hungry daughter have won. Way to go, OP. Do you think this is bullcrap as well? You will not be able to make it through this story without losing faith in humanity, okay? Here it is. It's called You Forgot Your Baby, posted by UBT400. Let the Karens begin. Years ago, I worked at a liquor store. Needless to say, when you work in retail of a controlled substance, you've seen everything. One time, I was at the register. I was wrestling with the receipt printer or something behind the counter. I ducked under the counter to fiddle with the cord when I heard the bell of a door. I looked up to say, "Good morning." There was a woman with a baby on her hip, maybe a 7 or 8 month old. I let her know that I was there to help and answer questions if needed, and went back to fiddling under the counter. I heard her approach, but then walk away without saying anything. Next thing I know, little hands are grabbing at my hair. I look up and her baby is on the counter. The mother is nowhere nearby. I quickly grabbed the baby and sat them on the counter so it wouldn't crawl anymore or fall off of the counter, and then I looked around. The mother was a few aisles away at that point. I was more than a little stunned and called out, "Ma'am, you forgot your baby." She turned to me and said something to the liking of, "You said that you would help? It's easier to shop while I'm not holding him, duh." I told her there were shopping carts that had baby seats. Please use them. I don't want to be responsible for her child. She rolled her eyes and grabbed 2 bottles of whatever the heck and came back to the counter. She paid, picked up her child, and left. She didn't even tell me she was leaving the kid at the counter, just sat them down and walked away without a word. I know, if that baby fell, she would have blamed or tried to sue me. You ever see something in your life and you know it's like, man, this is a short story. I usually like to do long, in-depth stories, but I saw this and I knew that I had to read it. Like, holy freaking crap. There is not much to say other than this is peak Karening, and if you are able to keep a straight face while listening to this story, you did better than 99% of the population. This is bat crap insane. Karen has a quarter brain. I always say Karens have a half a brain scientifically. This one has a quarter, if we're lucky. That quarter has been stomped on, lost, rubbed in dog crap. Who knows where it's been? Oh my goodness. Let me know what you think, and way to go, OP. Gosh. Oh, this Karen shopper makes fun of OP, who has no filter and almost gets fired. Here we go. How I told a customer to go F themselves, but they had my back and saved my job. Posted by the Askew one. Guess who nearly got their butt fired? So, the last few days have been tough for reasons not related to work. I'm on edge and my trigger is shorter than the usual. I'm nearing the end of my shift. I'm tired. We're understaffed, my back aches, and there are long lines at the registers. I mean, a kid is having a tantrum, it's chaos, and that's the moment when my manager decides to pull me away from the customer service desk because there's been a spill, and Bradley is new and doesn't seem to be able to clean it by himself. Thing is, I'm alone at the customer service desk running returns that won't process for no reason. There are 4 people waiting, and they look like they're ticked, and rightfully so. We've been so understaffed lately that customer service has been crap. There's a guy who's in the line, and he has been for at least 10 minutes. That's how good our customer service has become, and he overhears my manager asking me to take care of the spill. He goes, "Hey, what about you don't ask the special needs guy to clean? It's gonna take forever." That's when I hear myself answer, "Hey, how about you go screw yourself?" A few very long seconds of deadly silence. My manager looking at me in horror, and I'm just here with my mouth still open and dying inside. Karen customer says, fair enough. I said, I'm sorry. I don't know what possessed me. I apologize. I'm really, really sorry. Customer says, no, fair enough. I mean, I shouldn't have called you special needs. It was very inappropriate. I deserved it. That wasn't a thing to say. Actually, well, I apologize. Don't worry about it. We all have a short fuse at times. Actually, that was rather funny. I reply, well, sir, I can just say it's not how I do customer service usually. Again, I apologize. Thankfully, his wife or girlfriend, who was waiting nearby, found the situation hilarious too, and that helped defuse everything. The customer went to talk to my manager, who seemed to be under shock, and asked him not to chew my butt out because he had said something inappropriate first, and we all make mistakes. Needless to say, I thanked him profusely. My manager sent me to clean the spill and then called me to the office. I got a write-up, but I'm not being fired. We all write to complain about bad customers, so I thought it was only fair to mention how a good customer saved me from my own screw-up. And now I'm going to work on understanding why being called special needs made me irrationally angry. Now that's a twist and flip that you do not normally see. That Karen really stepped in doing typical Karen things. OP slaps back in a way that was unexpected, and then Karen's like, oh yeah, you're right. And then a happy ending that could have been bad because OP literally almost got fired for that in the workplace. But I think it's a crazy ending to see a Karen get flipped around like this. What do you think? Way to go, OP. I ruined the HOA and its president because they tried this. Check out the video on your screen. You don't want to miss the fallout, and I will see you there.